Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a really exciting foundation review. I'm not on the PR list for this brand, but this is a brand new foundation that I saw on Sephora was a weekly special. So what that means is if you make a certain purchase, you can put in a code and they send you like a deluxe sample. So I am working with a sample. This is the new Hourglass Vanish Seamless Finish liquid foundation. So it's the new Hourglass liquid foundation. I wanted to get this video up quickly for you guys. A lot of you guys have been DMing me asking me what I thought about it or you want me to review it. So hopefully this will help you guys out. We're going to do a first impression. So obviously I'm going to try it on and then we're going to do a wear test. The shade I got is beige. It is way too dark, I can already tell, which is kind of weird because it says it's a medium warm. I'm typically like a beige, medium beige. That's kind of what I am typically when I'm self-tanned like I am right now. We're going to make it work, but I just want to say before we get started that I do not self-tan my face, so if my face looks lighter than my body, that's why, and this is going to look really dark on my skin, but we're going to blend it in. I'm going to use concealer to manipulate it. This is the only shade that I have. They only had 5 shades. It was online, so I went right for the medium, which is typically what I would wear. So we're going to make it work, but I just want to say that. So let's go over the claims. I'm going to go over the price, the claims, what this foundation says that it will do for you, and then we will start applying. So I'm reading my information off of the Sephora app. It says this will retail for $56 USD, which is really pricey. The shade that I have, beige, is a medium warm undertone. Just upon seeing that, I would say that it runs dark. Now this is the only shade that I actually have to swatch, so I'm not sure, but be mindful of that. There are 32 shades. It looks like the shades are nice and diverse, but again, I don't know until I see more swatches. 32 seems like a good number. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. This also is 0.84 ounces, so it is less than a typical ounce of every other foundation, but this is supposed to be very full coverage. A little goes a long way. We'll talk about that in the claims. They say half a pump is gonna cover your entire face, so that's a pretty big claim. So if that is the case, I could see the price being justified for less than an ounce, but we will see in this review. In terms of the claims, this is a highly concentrated liquid foundation designed to deliver instant full coverage with half a pump, no primer needed. That's a big claim to say no primer. I do have pores, so I'm gonna do primer on half my face and then no primer on the other, and we'll see how that works. It says it is full coverage, natural finish, for every skin tone, free of parabens, vegan, cruelty-free, so those are all great things. It applies like a second skin, smooth and flawless complexion, non-comedogenic, waterproof, transfer-proof, and sweat-proof. That's like so many claims, so we will see about that. It says the steps that they suggest is hydrating. It doesn't require a primer, so I'm assuming you would just use a moisturizer, which I already have done. It says use half a pump, blend, set. So that's what we're gonna do here today. I'm just going to work with the color that I have. I do not have a pump because the sample has, it's kind of like a twist off with a little spatula. So we're just gonna use less than I typically would use, and we're gonna see if this works. So before we get into that, I'm gonna prime half my face with a primer I've been enjoying, which is the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. Been using this for a few weeks now, and I do think it's a dupe for the Tatcha. I will link down below a video of me trying this out. So I'm going to put primer on this side of my face. For me, it's more of a pore thing, not really a longevity thing. Now this foundation doesn't really say if it's like 12-hour wear, or I couldn't see that, I guess, on the Sephora app. So I'm not sure what they're claiming in terms of longevity, but they do say it's waterproof and sweat-proof, so we shall see. And I do have some breakouts down here, so we'll see if that covers it. So I pulled my hair back, and I'm just going to start with this side, and we're going to start with a brush. It says half a pump, which is like not a lot. For my brush, I'm just gonna use a kabuki brush. This is a JH03, and as I said, this shade is quite warm and too dark for me, which is a little surprising. Okay, wow. A little bit does go a long way. I'm not sure about half a pump for the entire face, but maybe 1 pump for the entire face. Now this is the side with no primer. So here's half the face done with a brush, no primer. I don't feel like it's accentuating my pores. I never really know until I set down with powder because I always set, and this does say to set as well. And I know it looks really dark, again, because I don't self-tan this side, but we're going to use a beauty blender on this side. Now keep in mind that we did use the e.l.f. primer too, so we're gonna see if it's smoother on this side. So I would say the claim of half a pump for the whole face, I'm not sure. Maybe for someone with unproblematic skin. For someone like me with general redness, it's harder to cover because it's not just a spot. But I will say a little goes a long way. I do not think this is something that you're going to need 2 or 3 pumps of. Okay, look at that coverage. Ooh. I prefer it on this side, and I don't know if it's the beauty blender or the primer. It is a little orange though. It's looking a little warm, but I never want to judge until I get to the end where I have concealed and powdered, because a lot of times that lightens things up. You can manipulate. Okay, I'm definitely preferring the side with the primer and the sponge. I just think it looks smoother. So this is one application of the foundation. I feel like it is full coverage. I do agree with that. I do agree that a little bit goes a long way. Again, it's very warm for me, but once I use the concealer, I think we can make it work. It's not accentuating my texture, but I do prefer the side with the smoothing primer. I typically do. And I just feel like it looks smoother. I also really like the beauty blender. I feel like I got a good high coverage with it, and it just looks more smooth and it blended better. And so that's my preference so far. So I'm gonna go in with concealer. I'm gonna use Huda Beauty Overachiever, and this is in the shade Nougat. And I'm going to use this, typically I would just use it under my eyes, but I'm gonna do a little bit all over because I do want to calm this down a little bit. Take a little bit, this is high coverage as well. So you do not need to put on loads and loads and loads. And blend this in. Hopefully this will kind of balance out how warm this foundation is. A lot of times people get really upset in the comments and are like, that's not the right shade. And it's like, it's really sometimes just an honest mistake. It's really hard to see and store your shade sometime, and especially online, which is what I ordered, and especially only having like sample selections, there really was only a few options. So I usually am a medium, so that's what I thought I was, but I would definitely go down. So this is what we're looking like with concealer on. I think that helped tremendously, and I think it's gonna help even more when you use powder. I'm gonna use my favorite powder, which is the Too Faced Born This Way, and we're going to set under the eyes and then all over the face. I think this is going to lighten it a little bit as well, because this typically does lighten my foundations a little bit and make them a little bit more neutral. And this foundation did say to set, so, and I would always set a foundation. I feel like now that we have set, it looks so much more just toned down and it matches my skin tone a little bit better. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply some face products. I wanna see how they blend on top of this, but it feels like a normal foundation. It doesn't feel sticky. It did say transfer proof, which I'm kind of like, I don't know about that claim, but it looks very smooth. I'm gonna give you a close up so we can see what it looks like. All right guys, so here is my finished makeup, and I have to say, this looks pretty flawless. I'm not noticing that it's accentuating my pores. It doesn't feel sticky, but it doesn't feel dry. I did not use a setting spray, so I would say this is a more kind of hydrating formula. It's not like a matte dry down, like a double wear or anything like that. I applied my powders just as I normally would, contour, bronzer. I will leave everything down below if you're interested in what I used, but I feel like everything blended beautifully on it. So the big thing is going to be, how is this going to wear? Because if it looks good for 2 hours and then it slides right off, then we have an issue if it starts breaking up. So overall, I am quite happy with how it looks right now. I'm going to do some close-ups for you guys, and then I will check back in a few hours. I'll see how long I can wear it. Hopefully I can wear it for a good 6-7 hours and give you guys a wear test. But overall, first impression, it looks really nice. Alright guys, so I am back to show you how my skin looks after 7 hours. So I've worn this for 7 hours. I feel like I'm looking pretty oily, pretty dewy. I was reading more about the foundation. It was saying that whatever shade you are in the stick foundation will be the same as the liquid. And I have to say my experience with that is not completely correct. I am actually the shade Beige in the stick foundation. Now keep in mind that is a fresh self-tan, but I swatched them both on my hand so you can see the difference. So this is the Beige stick, and then this is the Beige liquid. The liquid is just more orange. It's warmer. It's not as neutral. So let's see if you can see close up. So here is beige in the stick, which is still quite deep, but it has a neutral undertone, or more of a neutral undertone. And then here is the liquid, which to me is much more warm and can look quite orange. I'm unsure if I'm going to pick up the full size just because I don't feel like it's wearing as well as like my double wear would wear, or the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define, or even my Thrive Cosmetics CC cream. I'm getting ready to take my makeup off and go to bed, but I wanted to see what would happen if I did blot with a powder. Let's say I was out and I needed to tame the oiliness. So I have a MAC Studio Fix powder. You could use anything. And I just want to see if that, oh wow, kind of settles it in and takes care of that texture that bothers me. If I didn't have like really large pores right here, I probably would go more dewy, but because I do have large pores, it tends to emphasize them, and I just feel like I look smoother when I have a matte foundation. But I'm not noticing any weird, you know, pickup or gunkiness. It's not getting cakey at all. It's just kind of mattifying the skin a little bit. So I think if you were going to wear this for a longer time and you have combo skin like me that gets oily in the T-zone, you would definitely want to have a powder with you. Or you might want to try a matte primer in your T-zone. Sometimes I do that. I'll put on like moisturizer and then I'll put a matte primer in my T-zone. I'll mix it in with like a pore primer for foundations that are a little bit more luminous or that get a little bit more oily on me, which is something that I might do with this foundation. My final thoughts on that foundation is that it is full coverage. A little bit goes a long way. The wear time is not going to be like a double wear or something that is all day perfect. It does let your oil seep through. To me, it doesn't feel matte, but it's not super dewy until a few hours in. So it's kind of in the middle range for me. I think that it's very smoothing. It looks beautiful on the skin. I would say the first 3 hours it looked absolutely flawless. And then after that, my oil started to come through. Comparing it to their Vanish Stick Foundation, I do think the liquid is longer wearing, or it looks better for longer. This one, after a few hours, it's just a mess on me. So this one did perform better in terms of longevity. I think this one is even more smoothing than the stick foundation. The stick foundation is very creamy, emollient. This is more liquidy, more of a thin texture, and it has higher coverage in my opinion. So they're similar, but I do prefer the liquid. I do have to say this looks really flawless for the first few hours. So I'm gonna play around with this some more. If I do pick up the full size, I would definitely go down a couple shades. So let me know your thoughts down below. If you want me to do more foundation reviews, I can definitely do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.